Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you are keeping up with my shorts, you know that the factory original 289 for the 66 Mustang is back from the engine rebuilder. Got a short block and heads. What I'm going to be doing in this video is simple. We're going to be assembling it, starting with the bottom end, oil pump shaft, oil pump screen, paint the oil pan, get that buttoned up, the timing cover on it, then flip the engine over and start with bolting on the heads and things of that nature. Basically start from the bottom, work my way up. That's what we're going to do. Now this video is going to be shot over a couple of days because I'm having parts trickle in as we go. I just got the parts for the timing cover. I've got to run to the store and get some bolts for the timing cover. That'll be done today as well. But in the meantime, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cleaning up the engine block, cleaning up the oil pan, getting the oil pan ready to paint, and then I'm going to install the oil pump and the pan screen as well. Let's get busy. This is a Scottrake reproduction oil pan to the same specs as the stock oil pan. This is a stock build. We're going to make the engine look like it did in 1966. First thing I got to do is I'm going to pull the plug out of it and take this nylon washer off because I don't want it painted. I'm going to slide the bolt back down in. Clean this up using alcohol to get all the oil residue off of it. We're going to prime it and then paint it. Oil plug is a 13/16. Pop it off real quick. As I stated, I'm going to paint the plug, but I don't want to paint this nylon washer, so I'm going to take it off, slide this back in there, snug it up. That way I don't get any paint on the inside of the pan. I also don't get paint on the threads, but we do get paint on the oil plug itself. There we are. Now, I stated what I usually do to prepare this stuff. New parts come coated with a thin coating of oil to prevent rust. I'm going to be using regular rubbing alcohol to remove the oil residue and get started. I like using rubbing alcohol because it does remove all the oil residue completely, and it also evaporates quickly, so you can go ahead and get started. It smells kind of weird too if you're into that kind of thing. I happen to not be, by the way. You can see the residue that's getting off of that right there. See here, it's already dry, completely clean, ready to go. Now I'm going to be using Rust-Oleum high heat primer for the first coat, and then Duplicolor DE1606 Ford Dark Blue, which is the correct color for a 1966 Mustang engine and accessories. Nice coat of primer. Let that dry. We're going to get to work, paint this dark Ford blue, and then I'm going to start with getting the oil pump and oil pump shaft and screen mounted onto the block after I paint this and get this ready to go. And then it's a matter of installing the timing cover, which you have to install the timing cover first because these bolts up here at the front and the seal actually are on the timing cover on these small block Fords. So you have to put the timing cover on first, then the other. That'll be next. Let's go. First can I'm going to be using is almost empty, so I'm sure I might not even get a couple of squirts on, but let's get started. I do like this color. And that's it for that. Of all the Ford Blues, I have to say this is my personal favorite. Now while that dries, I'm going to be putting the oil pump on using a brand new set of ARP oil pump bolts. Brand new input shaft, brand new oil pump, new bolts, gaskets, the works. Torque specs on this are 23 to 28 foot-pounds. I'm going to do them at 25. And here in a moment I will show you where that shaft goes down in, and it's got that keeping collar on it to make sure that it's done correctly. I'm not sure I can actually show this too well. Let's see if I can get in there, but essentially that shaft is right here and goes down into a specific hole. Don't know if you can see that or not. Right there. You see how that keeper washer is holding it in place. That is where it connects to the distributor. So that is in place, and next we will do the oil pump screen. Now, in case you're building your own 289 and you want some specificity, this is a Melling standard M68 factory replacement oil pump. The screen that I'm going to put on it is an 68S. The input shaft is IS, input shaft 68. So the numbers match. And of course, with the new screen, you also want to use a new gasket. And you match up the gasket like so and put it in position. Torque specs on this, on the pickup screen, is 12 to 15 pounds. I'm going to err on the side of caution and go 13 pounds. 15, 14, that's 13 pounds right there. Not much power at all, as you can see. Click, click. That is on. So, 25 foot-pounds on the oil pump bolts, 12 to 15 pounds on the screen, brand new screen, brand new oil pump, brand new input shaft. At this point, what we got to do now is I've got to run to the store, get the bolts for the timing cover. The timing cover goes on next, then the oil pan. Let's keep going. All right, what's next is we're going to work on the timing cover. First thing you have to do is there's a seal that goes in right here that seals the harmonic balancer to this to prevent oil leaks. It actually comes with the gasket kit comes with two different seals. Both of them are pretty much the same. I'm going to use this one that's got the flange on it because I think it would work a little bit better. Now, I'm not actually going to put this on the car yet, but I'll get to that, the reason why on that in a moment. Because there is one more thing I need to get for this, which is on its way. But basically, you just size this up. I've got my trusty seal driver here, selected with the proper size seal driver, and we just basically try to tap this into place. After careful examination, I decided not to use this one. I decided to use the other one. Hammer that into place. It's got a good tight seal there. Good to go. So that's done. Now the next thing we would normally do if I was actually installing it would be using my ultra black RTV and finding the proper gasket, which is this one right here, and using the RTV to seal that gasket on, and then applying this to the car. But let me show you what I've done on this. And as you can see, this gasket is going to go on there just like that, which I will get to in a moment. But the reason I'm actually not going to put this on today is because there is one more part that I'm actually missing that fits right here. There is an oil slinger that goes on here. Now you can go online and look, and it is hotly debated as to whether or not the oil slinger is even necessary. I've built engines that didn't have them. I've built engines that do have them. What it is it's simply a round disc that fits over this, keyed with the pin here, and it dips itself into the oil and slings oil onto the timing chain, lubricating this area up here. Now there are some arguments that show that this is actually dipped into the oil and it oils on its own. I've never had any problems either way, but I did go ahead and spend the money, the very little amount of money that is, and bought an oil slinger that should be here in a couple of days. And as a result of that, I'm not actually going to put this on as of yet. What I am going to do is test my bolts. This goes on something like this. They make bolt kits. Any number of hot rod part manufacturers and part distributors make bolt kits for these. I've bought them in the past. At some point, you're always going to run into a bolt that does not fit. Only half the bolts work. I actually went online to Summit Racing and came across one of the parts. It's an ARP kit, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a guy from 8 years ago named Don. Let's see if I can get it to focus. I can't. But anyway, what Don is saying here is the bolts don't fit. Kit has the wrong bolts, and he actually took the time and measured what all the bolts are, and noted that they are coarse thread 5/16 bolts. Grade 8 hardware is what they use from the factory. Grade 8 hardware is what I bought. So in lieu of spending 30 bucks on a bolt kit that I know for a fact in the past doesn't have half the bolts that fit, I decided to follow this guy's instructions, and for the grand total of $6.23, bought myself a bolt kit at the local hardware store, Grade 8 hardware. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if these work just by test fitting them. I can tell you the first batch does fit, which is good news. You've got, now the timing cover bolts, you've got 2 at the top here and 2 on each side, here and here. The rest of these are for the water pump mounts, which also he measured for those as well. So I'm going to see if that actually works too. But what I'm going to try right now, since I do not have my water pump here right at the moment, I'm going to see if these bolts that he recommended actually work. And the 2 top ones I can see right now definitely do. Now I need to be sure when I get this all mounted up that this is flush. Got to be very careful with that. And of course I will tighten all these up later, but make sure that all those are flush. Now he's got those 2 right there that he recommended for that. Let's see what else he says here. For the ones that are into the block, he's got the 2 that are 7/8 of an inch long that are at the top of the block cover, 4 2 inches for the bottom of the timing cover. That's these 4 2 inches right here. So let's see if what we've got there does the trick. These are my 2-inch bolts that I've got, and he recommended small washers, so I'm going to put the washers on each one of these. And if these 4 work, then the rest of the bolts should go towards bolting the actual water pump on, which I will do whenever I actually get a water pump. Okay. Now these supposedly bolt this in. Okay, I'm going to cinch these up just a little bit. I'm not going to tighten them or torque them down or anything. I'm just going to make sure they're tight so this doesn't move on me. And then I'm going to see if these actually work for this. This bolt right here was not wanting to go in properly, and after I took it out to check it out to see if it's got a problem, I noticed we do have some rust buildup in there, so I've got to find the proper die to see if I can clean that out. One thing is certain is I need a better tap and die set. Add that to the list. Always manage to misplace one. All right, let's see how this does now. Okay, at the very least, I know I've got all of the bolts necessary to mount that. And the rest of the bolts should mount up the water pump pretty well. Let's just make sure I got enough of them. Obviously these are going to go here and here. And I've actually got some shorter bolts for these if I didn't want them to go all the way through. I'll just have to wait and see how long the water pump is. This one I believe I might need that, and I'll consult that. That is the bolt for that. And of course, all of these, you get the washers on them, you see. One more thing before I call it a day on this. I did opt, there's 2 gasket kits available from Summit for this. One of them is $78, one of them was $108. I actually splurged and bought the more expensive one for a couple of reasons. And they have to do with the valve cover gaskets and the oil pan gasket. The standard 289 oil pan gasket has the outside rails are cork with rubber here, and you have to come in here with RTV on the corners. This is a one-piece gasket. Seals better. It is more expensive, but it seals better and is easier to install. So I opted for that. And also, as opposed to cork valve cover gaskets, it included similar technology gaskets for the valve covers as well, as you can see here. The higher quality gaskets basically is the reason why I went with this particular gasket kit from Felpro. Okay, we're now a couple of days later. I've been holding up the project because we've had a delay in receiving some parts. It is now a couple of days later, and some of those parts were supposed to be here yesterday. I had 4 different shipments, 2 from the post office, 1 from FedEx, 1 from UPS, all of which were supposed to be here yesterday. None of them showed up. Every single one of them was late. Do better, guys. But nevertheless, one of the things that I was supposed to be receiving that has delayed me from putting on the timing cover and the oil pan was this piece here. I'm going to show you a picture of the item. It's one that they no longer reproduce. Nobody makes it aftermarket or anything like that, so you have to find a stock piece, and that means it's expensive. They're about $30 to $40. It's just a flat piece of metal, but it's an oil slinger that mounts right here. Now, the purpose of that is twofold. The name implies that it slings oil into the timing gears and lubricates the front end. The other purpose of this lies in the fact that back in 1966 it was designed to reduce pressure on this seal and keep the seal from leaking, thus creating a front crank seal leak. Now, the downside is, or actually it's not even a downside, there is actually quite a bit of chatter online as to whether or not that seal is even necessary. Depending on who you ask, will pretty much fall on what opinion you get on that. Some people say it's not necessary. I personally have built small block Ford engines without them in the past and never had an issue. And the pretty much accepted thing is they're not really necessary, although some people, and this is what I was thinking on this one, have determined that if the engineer of the engine put it on there, they put it on there for a reason, and that's actually a good argument. So I decided to do it right, quote unquote, and order an oil slinger for this. It has not arrived as of yet, but in the interim I've done some research. What I found out, if you recall, I was going to put one on it because it had it on it and this is a stock build, but they had some issues with getting a stock timing chain to mount up properly, so they ended up putting a high performance double roller timing chain on it. Didn't charge me extra for it. I'm all in favor of that. This is a better timing chain. But what I have since found out is with the double roller timing chain, it's thicker this way. The oil slinger interferes with the chain, so you can't use it anyway. So I've managed to lose 2 or 3 days of work waiting on a part that I don't need. I don't like feeling dumb, but that makes me feel a little dumb. But now that that's taken care of, we don't need it, I can go ahead and proceed. We're going to put the timing cover on this, then the oil pan, then we're going to flip it over and start and keep up with this assembly. Let's get busy. One thing I'm going to do on this in order to have as good a seal as possible is I am going to put some RTV, which is this stuff here, around the water jacket area and seal it all up really good. That way we've got good contact on everything and just an extra bit of protection to ensure that it seals up properly. I don't know what my dogs are barking at, but they're upset about something. What I'm doing here is I've got a little bit of off there, so I'm going to push that down just a little bit, like so, and then tighten it back up. Okay, timing cover is on. Let's move to the oil pan. Okay, a couple of things on this now that we're getting ready to do the oil pan, and I'm going to speak up because I'm walking across the room to grab something. A couple of things is you've got 2 different types of bolts that go into the oil pan. The vast majority of them that go around the perimeter are 7/16 head. The ones in the corner, however, on all 4 corners are 1/2 inch. So you have to be sure of that. You also have to know the torque specs, which in this case is not that much. It's 7 to 9 foot-pounds. And the reason it's so little is if you get down on these too much, you can bend the oil pan where the holes are, and it causes leaks. So it's only 7 to 9 pounds, and you also have a torque sequence. If I can get this on here, if you can see that, there we go. There's actually a torque sequence that you have to go through that once you follow that in order to torque it correctly. So that's what we're going to do now. Also on this, if you recall, I mentioned that the original gaskets for the 289 oil pan are two-piece. You've got rubber pieces that go over the main bearings, and then you've got a cork seal that goes around the edge. These are notorious for leaking in the corners and just not sealing well. I am going with the better and later model one-piece gasket, which is all inclusive. Much better high quality gasket, and it's going to seal better and work better. I am still going to put RTV here and here where this seam is to make sure I don't have any sealing issues there. Way to tell which side is which on this, if you see right here, you will see a bend in the path. That's only on one side, it's right there, so obviously that's where it goes. This fits over like so and goes into place. And with this gasket also, it's less critical. You don't have to put gasket sealer in the corners because it's all one piece. So you put that into position and set your oil pan in place, and it should be good to go. Now all we have to do is get our bolts in, and then we will torque this back. Brand new bolts. 4 of these are 1/2 inch, the rest are 7/16. This is the big one, it's a 1/2 inch. It goes in the corner, like so. The rest of these go in normally, like so as well. I'm just going to fit them around. And I'm going to use my speed ratchet to get them ramped down, and then I will tighten accordingly. Let's go the other side. Good job. Torque wrench is set to 8 pounds. Let's get started. The first one we do is 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here. Now I'm going to go back around the horn again just to make sure that they're all at the proper torque value. Okay, timing chain is on. The timing chain bolts are torqued and ready to go. Oil pan is on. So and all the bolts there are torqued up and ready to go. So we're going to roll this thing around, flip it over, and start on the top side. All right, we've got the engine turned over. Everything looks good. And as you can see here, I checked before I put the timing cover on. The pointers are matched up. Number 1 cylinder is all the way at the top. This is at top dead center, which is where I want it, so I can get the distributor placement and everything. So I'm going to try my best not to invade that. It's time to put the heads on. Okay, I've got the head bolts finger tight. There is a sequence that these has to be torqued, and with ARP bolts, the torquing specifications are a bit different. On a standard 289 Ford, it calls for 68 to 73 foot-pounds. ARP bolts are a bit different. You have to go up to 80 foot-pounds, and it's in 3 steps. You torque them all at 40, then it's 60, and then to 80, and you do it in a specific sequence. Basically, the sequence is you start in the middle and work your way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's what we're doing now. Okay, that's the 40-pound sequence. We're going to run up our torque wrench to 60 pounds now and repeat the sequence. And now for the 80-pound sequence. One thing I failed to mention, I always use a 6-point socket unless you have 12-point bolts. This head is on. We're going to do the other side now. Okay, so timing chain cover, oil pan, and now the heads are on the block. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to tape off the exhaust ports. I'm going to tape off this area where the water pump bolt's on. And then I'm going to tape off the, I may go ahead and tape off these gold bolts because I kind of like the way they look. I'm going to set the intake down on, tape off the distributor hole, set my valve covers on, and I'm going to go ahead and finish painting the engine. Then we can move forward. Not bad. And just a little bit later, we have plenty of gorgeous forward blue on this. We've got one more piece of tape to tape off here. There we go. All in all, I'm very satisfied with the way this is coming together. Kind of reminiscent of 1966. I've got an oil pump and I've got a harmonic balancer and all that stuff coming. That of course will be added in the next segment. But that's where we are right now. Now we're going to be waiting for parts. What I've got coming so far is I've got a harmonic balancer and bolt coming, a water pump, brand new set of lifters. Now if you've been keeping up online, you know that there is a problem with modern lifters, flat tappet lifters, either flattening the cam lobe or the lifters eating themselves because of break-in procedures going bad. I'm going to, of course, run some high-quality break-in oil and use the break-in procedure on this engine when I get it started. But I'm also going with high-quality American-made lifters. I ordered some Johnson lifters. It's my understanding that Johnson and Rhodes are about all there is now as far as American-made higher quality stuff. That is what I'm going with, is Johnson. They're supposed to be here today, of course. And that's why I'm not bolting on the intake or anything like that. I've got intake bolts coming as well. I've got a brand new set of pulleys, a fan spacer, and a fan coming. So we can pretty much dress this engine out. And then after that point, it's going to be a matter of ordering the clutch and the flywheel, put it on my other set of stands that allow me to mount the transmission to it. And my aim is to get the drivetrain completely together on this. But in the meantime, let's wait for some more parts, then we'll proceed again. Well, literally about 5 minutes after I just wound up that last segment, the first of multiple orders I'm expecting today arrive. Let's see what we got. I think I know what this is. And if it is, that means we can move on to the next step. At least I hope that's what's in here. The lifters are still not here, but those are not as critical as some of the other stuff I'm waiting on. Let's see here. Harmonic balancer. Yes, that's good. Put that over here. This is intake manifold bolts. We won't need those right away because I'm still waiting on the lifters and I've got to get push rods and stuff like that. So those are not ordered as of yet. So I'll put those over in the box for later. Harmonic balancer bolt. Again, ARP studs. I think what I'm going to do on the harmonic balancer is I don't want to spin it past top dead center. So I think I'm going to wait and put that on, or at least torque it later. I may spin it in and then label it as not torqued. That way I'll know to torque it later. And this should be the water pump. Take a look. And that is exactly what it is. A standard cast iron water pump. Came with a gasket, but I'm going to go with the gasket that came with my Pro kit. Just keep this in case I need it later. And you can see here the one longer bolt I had. This is the one I like. I like the cast iron one better than the other one, frankly, because they've got the backing plate on it and they seem to flow a little bit better. Just me personally, it's just my preference. But this is where the longer bolt goes in. The rest of the bolts are right there. That fits right there. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this, which means I'm going to tape off these two holes here and the pulley, and then I will move forward and mount it up. Let's get painted. Primarily the reason I paint this is cast iron. It will rust. I don't want it to rust. I want it to look good. Plus, that's factory. So let's let that dry, then we'll mount it. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I am going to keep in mind that I am going to have to take off some of the bolts once I put them back on, because I've got the dipstick coming and it mounts off of one of these bolts. Not that big of a deal. Slide the bolt off, put that in place, put it back on. A few other things like that. I also have to put the timing pointer on it, which means that bolt's going to have to come off so I can hook up the timing pointer on this. And this holds the coil. I can't remember really which one of these it actually goes on. I'm just going to put it on this one here, and that looks like it's going to interfere with the coil, so I think I might put it here for now, knowing that I can change that later. Before I do that, I think I'll look it up and see where it goes. As with most things, there's no standardization. There's one area, if you ask Google, their AI, it says it goes on the passenger side. The problem with that is the alternator goes on the passenger side too. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think you can honestly put it everywhere, and actually on this engine, I believe it was right there. I'm going to stick it there for now, and if that's not right, then we'll deal with that later. This is primarily just to make sure I don't lose the bracket, keep up with the bracket and everything. It can go right there. I can move it to another place if it has that big of a, it's not that big of a deal. I know that the alternator goes on this side, so we'll worry about that when time comes. Now, as far as the harmonic balancer, I have decided that I don't want to torque it down yet because I don't want to spin it. I want to be able to lock the crank in place so it doesn't spin while I'm trying to do it. That way I don't lose top dead center. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on, but I'm not going to torque it. I'm going to put a piece of tape across the bolt saying need to torque. That way I remind myself that it does need to be torqued. But that way I can go ahead and put it on, have it in position, and be ready to go. It is very, very bad to forget to torque this though, because spinning a harmonic balancer can be catastrophic. This is a standard stock replacement harmonic balancer. Right here. And I believe I might want to paint this because that is steel, and I want to be sure that it is good to go on that. Simply mopping this up right now. There's the keeper pin right there. My timing pointer is going to go right there. There's top dead center. That's exactly where it needs to be. But I do want to go ahead and put a coat of paint on this. I think I'm going to paint this black. That's the color they were. So let's get this painted. The balancer is drying. Water pump is dry. I'm going to double check everything, make sure the gasket fits just like that. Now I'm going to be running some RTV. On these, it's less critical. You don't really have to run RTV here, you just have to run it around the water connections. That's what I'm going to do. Put this in place, like so. And repeat the steps to put the RTV around the actual water pump as well. The water pump side. The super long one goes right here. Figure out where this one goes. That one goes through there, that one goes through there. I may have the wrong bolt. There it is, right there. Okay, good deal. I can tell you this, the gentleman that posted that on the Summit Racing site regarding the bowl length absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's the first time I've ever had bolts set for one of these where actually the bolts fit. Notice I am not torquing these down as of yet, and I need to be real gentle with them because some of these are going into aluminum. I do not want to strip them out. Okay, that's done. All right, about an hour later, I got another package in, which I'll open up in just a second, but right now, it is time to mount the harmonic balancer. Again, I am not torquing it, and I am going to leave myself a very broad note reminding me that I have not torqued it. That way I don't spin it accidentally in the future. There it is. Line up the pin. There that is. Now I've got this tool right here, which is used to mount harmonic balancers. Kind of handy. This is much better than the claw versions that I've seen in the past because those just remove. This actually removes them and actually installs them, which is very handy. Tools you don't use often, but when you do need it, it's very handy. The good news is I've got my timing marker here where I can set top dead center. That is on quite nicely. And I'm actually going to rotate this slightly. That way my pin, I've gotten it just a little bit off because it did spin on me. But the good news is all I've got to do is put the keeper pin to the center. I'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, that fits. Put this back out, and I'm going to go ahead and put some lubrication on it because as all ARP bolts, they do recommend you use their lubrication. So I'm going to be sure and put the assembly lubrication on there right now because it will be there when I get ready to tighten it. Okay, that is in there. It is not torqued. I'm going to leave myself a note now to remind myself to torque it. Okay, that is on there now. Good to go. Okay, apologies. My battery died on my camera. I'm not sure how much we got on there, but the good news is I can fix it in the editing process. As you can see here, as I was doing, I've got the bolt in there, but it is not torqued down because I want to leave it at top dead center until I get a distributor in it. That is going to be something ordered very soon, so I've left myself a little note here, torqued to 120 foot-pounds. In the interim, while waiting on the harmonic balancer to dry, the U.S. Postal Service finally showed up with something that should have been here several days ago. If this is what I think it is, it'll be kind of handy. Pop it open. Indeed it is. A complete set of Johnson lifters for this. 4, 8, 12, 16 of them. hydraulic lifters for a 289 Ford. These are supposed to be better quality than the import stuff that you're getting that have a tendency to dome and flatten the cam and things like that. Of course, you do have a break-in process as well. But I've got the lifters now, so as soon as I get the push rods and can mount the rocker arms and everything, we'll set that up as well. Set up cold lash and all of that. But in the meantime, I've gotten an awful lot done. Oil pump screen, oil pan, timing chain cover, as well as the water pump, the harmonic balancer. The heads are torqued down, and now it's just a matter of I've got the lifters. I can put those in eventually, but I'm going to wait until I get push rods. That way I can get the train totally up to snuff. I'm going to reuse my rocker arms. There's nothing wrong with them. They're in great shape. So I think we're going to call this a video right here. More parts coming on the way. I've got new pulleys coming, a new fan coming, and a new fan spacer coming. I've got alternator brackets coming. I need to order a distributor so I can get that into TDC and get all that set up. And once I get that set up and I get the lifters in, get the push rods in, get the rocker arms on, I can bolt down the intake manifold, and then it's a matter of putting the clutch and flywheel on and mating it to the transmission, then scoot this thing over in the corner, completed drivetrain, ready to go. I'm very pleased with the way this looks. The machine work is excellent. It's coming together nicely, looks good, looks factory, exactly what I wanted. In the next long form video on this engine, the next steps are going to be putting those parts on, getting the clutch on, and mating it to the actual engine block, to the transmission. And that way it'll be ready to go, ready to put in. But in the meantime, I'm going to be journeying next weekend to where the Mustang is to install and cut off panels and install new quarters and all of that stuff as well. That will be coming soon. If you like the content, hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.